You have a secret. Maybe it's small, maybe it's heavy. Maybe it's been sitting in your chest for years, like a stone you carry everywhere, but never set down. You've thought about telling someone. You've rehearsed the words, but you never say them. And you tell yourself that's fine. That silence is safer. But the Catholic Church has known something for 2,000 years that modern psychology is only now catching up to. Saying something out loud changes it. Not writing it down, not thinking it, speaking it to another human being in a sacred space designed for truth. That space is the confessional. Picture it. A small wooden booth, a thin screen, two people separated but connected. One confesses, one listens, one absolves. From the outside, it looks simple. But spiritually and psychologically, it's one of the most sophisticated human practices ever created. The early church didn't have neuroscience, but it understood the human soul. It understood that sin festers in silence, that shame grows in the dark, and that the human heart needs to speak truth to be healed. Modern research now confirms what the church intuited long before science had the language for it. In the 1990s, psychologist James Pennebaker studied people carrying secrets, painful, embarrassing, or long buried. Some wrote their secret privately. Others spoke it aloud to another person. The difference was dramatic. Those who spoke their secret showed drops in stress hormones. Their blood pressure lowered. Their immune system improved. Those who only wrote, almost none of these effects. Why? Because your brain has a region, the anterior cingulate cortex, that monitors social threat. It lights up when you fear judgment or rejection. When you carry a secret, that alarm hums quietly in the background, sometimes for years. Confession interrupts that hum. When you speak the truth and the listener does not reject you, the alarm receives new information. The catastrophe you rehearsed never happens. And the brain updates. Psychologists call this a corrective emotional experience. The church calls it absolution. The structure of confession is not accidental. A controlled setting, a guaranteed non-judgmental listener, a requirement to put sin into words, a promise of forgiveness. This is exactly the structure modern therapists use, except the church built it 1,800 years earlier. The screen, the anonymity, the seal of confession, these weren't decorative. They were safeguards, ensuring that the penitent could speak without fear of rejection. You already know the priest will not cast you out. You already know mercy is waiting. The only variable left is whether you can speak the truth. St. Augustine described confession as turning himself inside out before God so nothing remained hidden even from himself. That last part matters, because Pennebaker found something surprising. The healing doesn't come only from the listener. It comes from organizing the experience into language. Sin and shame often sit in the mind as fragments, sensations, emotions, flashes. When you put them into words, your brain must give them structure, a beginning, a middle, an end. And the moment you narrate something, you step slightly outside it. That distance is everything. This is why people say their sin felt smaller once they finally confessed it. The event didn't change. Their relationship to it did. There's another layer. When someone reveals something vulnerable and the listener responds with compassion, the body releases oxytocin, the hormone associated with trust and bonding. But if the listener reacts with disgust or judgment, stress spikes, shame deepens. This is why the church insists on the seal of confession. Why priests are trained to respond with mercy. Why the ritual is structured to guarantee safety. The church didn't need hormone studies to know this. It simply built a sacrament that aligns perfectly with human nature. Grace doesn't replace psychology. Grace perfects it. Anthropologists have found confession-like practices in cultures with no connection to Christianity. Humans have always needed to speak truth aloud, around fires, in caves, in tribes. The confessional didn't invent the need, it sanctified it. It took a universal human impulse, the need to speak, to be known, to be forgiven, and placed it inside a sacrament where God Himself meets the penitent. Whatever you've been carrying, guilt, regret, sin, shame, it isn't disappearing. It's just keeping your internal alarm humming quietly in the background. And the research is clear. When you finally speak it to someone safe, stress drops, the story shrinks, the fear loses. But confession offers something science cannot measure: grace, forgiveness, reconciliation, a soul made clean. You don't need a therapist's office. You don't need a journal. You need a priest, and the courage to turn the fog in your chest into a sentence. Tonight, when that familiar weight settles in, notice something. It isn't just a feeling. It's a sentence you've never spoken. And the moment you say it, in the confessional, before God, it stops being a weight you carry and becomes a sin forgiven.